Hey, what is up guys? Thank you so much for tuning in today. If it's your first time to the channel, welcome. If you're back again, thank you so much for coming back. Today, we've got a really exciting episode as we start to talk about transformational Jesus. Jesus dedicated his lives to see the transforming of lives. And today we're going to delve a little bit into that as we continue this new series, Who is this man? So today we're going to be talking about this transformational Jesus, this idea that Jesus was constantly transforming the way that he saw culture, the way that he saw people, the way that people viewed life, and just continually changing and molding and moving culture and everything within that. Today we're going to be looking only a small little bit at this guy Jesus transforming some people's lives. Two people specifically that we're going to be looking at. And the first person we're going to be looking at is found in Matthew 4:18. Now Jesus is just starting his ministry. He's just starting out and he's decided what I need to do is I need to get some people on my team. I need to call some people to be surrounded by. I need to call some people to come and follow me so I can show them the ropes, so I can show them what's in store, so I can lead them and teach them. And he calls these people who become Jesus' like close friends, and they're called their disciples. And in Matthew 4:18 to 20, we find that he calls this one guy called Peter and another guy called Andrew. They're brothers. But it's interesting what he says here. He says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. And at once they left their nets and followed him. Within an instant, Jesus implemented transformational power into their life. Within a split second, what was once fishermen, their normal routine was dropped because they had encountered with Jesus something that was far greater than their current vocation had them living for. There was something about this guy that was worth dropping their nets for, and it was the power of Jesus' transformation that we're going to follow throughout this guy, Simon, who was called Peter's life. Simon called Peter, you might know him, you might be familiar with him. This is the guy who later on would say to Jesus, hey, I'm not going to deny you. Don't worry, Jesus. You said everyone's going to deny you, but not me. I'm not going to do that. And 3 times before the rooster crows, he denies Jesus. 3 times. He doesn't just do it once, but he does it 3 times. Peter, this is the guy, right? And this is the start of his transformation. And he starts learning about Jesus. In an instant, he's transformed. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that idea, that within an instant we're transformed, but that doesn't mean we're the finished product. Right now, you might be following Jesus. Right now, you might be thinking about following Jesus. It might be a thought in your mind. And within an instant, when you make that decision to follow Jesus, your worldview completely changes. Like Peter here, no longer are you doing what you once did. No longer are you just working out in the waters. No longer are you just doing a 9-to-5 shift. All of a sudden, everything that you do is about pleasing and honouring God. All of a sudden, your worldview isn't about me and my life, but about God and who he is and who he is calling me to be. So within that instant, as we see here with Peter, he drops everything because he says, I'm following you, God. And if you've made that decision to follow Jesus, you've made that decision to say, my worldview is no longer the same. When I look at the society around me, when I look at the skies and the works of God's hand, when I look at the creation I am moved to transform as Jesus transformed me. Richard Niebuhr does a book called Christ and Culture. An incredible book. If you're thinking about doing a theology degree, you need to get this book because you can basically stick it in almost any paper. I did an applied theology degree, and as a result, this Richard Niebuhr book can very, very useful. But he falls on this idea at the end, a spoiler alert by the way, that Jesus was in culture, but he was in culture to transform it. He was constantly working to change culture. And we see that in Peter's life because he is transforming what was once a fisherman into a fisher of men. It's a complete radical change. And we see that throughout the life. Now, in the Christian jargon, we call it a sanctification process. This process that every day we wake up, we follow Jesus and we can't become a little bit more like him. We journey this journey that every day we start to be more like him. And we find that within Peter's life as he starts to grow with Jesus, as he starts to understand Jesus, he starts to be able to walk out on water and step out in the stormiest of seas where when he was just a fisherman, would never have done. But because he's been transformed by Jesus, he's able to make those steps. Albeit he takes his eyes off Jesus, which is a whole different sermon, whatever way you want to tackle that. But he still has enough faith because he knows who Jesus is. And then we, as I said earlier, get to this point where he denies Jesus 3 times. But it doesn't end there because the process of sanctification keeps going. He is forgiven. He knows he's forgiven for that denial. And then we find that Peter is the one who stands up in front of thousands of people to the early church. And Peter's the one who sees the first revival within the early church. We find that in Acts. He stands up and thousands around him give their lives to the cause. Thousands around him say, I want to be a Christian. I want to do what you're doing. I want to have what you've got. Thousands of people do that. Why? Because the transforming power of Jesus. It all started back here. It didn't start when Peter decided, I'm going to stand up and say something here. It all started here. It goes a little bit further when a lame man is lame from birth and he is outside the temple courts, and Peter and John walk past him and find him lying there. And he says, I need some money. And he turns around and they say, we haven't got money. Silver and gold we don't have. But what we do have, we give to you. And he uses the power of Jesus to pull this man up. And he starts walking, jumping and praising God. A man who couldn't walk, miraculously healed by Jesus. Why? Because the transforming power of Jesus was so great. But you might be sat there thinking, well, that's great for Peter because early on in his life, he had this opportunity. I just really want to say this transforming work of Jesus, it happens even when you think you've passed your best. Because we notice in the Easter story, we're leading up to Easter now as the church calendar ticks on. We're leading up to Easter and we find in the Easter story this moment happening where on the cross, literally the last few minutes of this person's life, a thief on one side of Jesus calls out and mocks him, and another thief turns around and says, don't you know who this is? He's done nothing wrong. This is Jesus. This is the Messiah. He is blameless. And Jesus' transforming work happens within an instant on the cross. As Jesus replies to him, hey, your faith is so good, you're going to be with me tonight in paradise. When we die, no longer are you going to a lost eternity, but you're going to be entering the heavenly realms with me. The transforming work of Jesus changes it. And who is this man? As we continue this series, this man, Jesus, is someone who really wants to transform your life. Will you allow him? Maybe it's by making that original decision, like Peter, to step out of the boat, to say, do you know what, Jesus, I'm not going to be a fisherman anymore, but I'm going to follow you. Maybe you're further along down the line. You've been a Christian for a little while, and you're still struggling with some of the stuff that you used to do, and you've not fully let God, Jesus, transform you in that way. Whatever it might be, I just want to challenge you and encourage you. Jesus is ready and willing to transform you. All he is doing is saying, come to me so I can do it. So I can transform you into who I want you to be. Who is this man? Well, he's this transformational Jesus. Make sure you tune in next week as we continue this series to look a little bit more at who this man is. Thank you so much for watching. Be blessed and be a blessing.